They were pillars of their community, church-going, friendly, the kind of people you'd trust with your own children. But in 2022, a police raid would expose their darkest secrets. Secrets so vile, even seasoned investigators were left shaken. What they found inside that house would make your blood run cold. Walton County, Georgia, was the picture of Southern charm in October 2022. Rolling hills dotted with pumpkin patches, church steeples piercing the autumn sky, and streets so quiet you could hear the rustle of leaves underfoot. Meadowview Drive, a cul-de-sac lined with identical brick mailboxes and tire swings, epitomized suburban safety. House number 142 stood out only in its unremarkability. A two-story colonial with navy shutters, a wreath on the door, and a pair of tiny bicycles propped near the garage. To the neighbors, William and Zachary Zulock were the ideal couple, the kind who hosted block parties, volunteered at the food bank, and never missed their sons' soccer games. The Zulocks had moved to Walton County 6 years earlier, quickly embedding themselves in the community's fabric. William, 38, worked remotely as a financial consultant, while Zachary, 35, was a stay-at-home dad who baked cupcakes for school fundraisers. Their two adopted sons, ages 7 and 9, were bright-eyed boys who sold lemonade in the summer and left handwritten thank-you notes for their teachers. At Oak Grove Baptist Church, the couple were fixtures. William sang in the choir, Zachary taught Sunday school, and their boys clutched hymnals with earnest concentration. They were the family you'd point to and say, "Why can't everyone be like them?" recalled Martha Ellison, a neighbor whose grandchildren played with the Zulock kids. Behind closed doors, however, the Zulocks curated their image with chilling precision. Their social media posts, meticulously staged snapshots of pumpkin carving, beach trips, and bedtime stories, were a masterclass in deception. Investigators later found spreadsheets tracking their public appearances, noting which events would yield the most sympathetic optics. Even their home's decor was weaponized. Family photos lined the staircase, but forensic analysts discovered the frame's backing hid USB drives. The boys' bedroom, though strewn with Legos and superhero posters, concealed cameras inside stuffed animals, their lenses peering through button eyes. The first fissure in their facade appeared in mundane fashion, a discrepancy in their adoption paperwork. The Zulocks had obtained both children through a private agency, New Beginnings Family Services, which specialized in fast-tracked placements. Though the process typically took years, their file showed the boys were placed within 11 months, a red flag later linked to the agency's director, who was indicted for bribery in 2023. Caseworkers had noted the couple's exceptional preparedness, including a detailed parenting plan and letters of reference from pastors. Yet one overlooked detail gnawed at Detective Sarah Wilkins during her initial review. The boys' medical records showed frequent visits to a pediatrician outside their insurance network, a Dr. Melissa Hargrove, whose license was later revoked for overprescribing sedatives. The Zulocks' veneer began to crack further when Wilkins dug into their past. William's 2008 arrest for public indecency, dismissed after the accuser recanted, resurfaced alongside whispers from his hometown about a secret settlement. Zachary's resume gap in 2019 coincided with a mysterious hospitalization in Alabama, though records were sealed. Most alarming were the financials. Despite modest incomes, they'd paid cash for a $25,000 swimming pool and taken multiple international trips. A forensic accountant traced wire transfers to an offshore account, flagged years earlier for suspicious activity, but no one had connected the dots. By the time Wilkins received the anonymous tip that October, the Zulocks were already under a shadow. The email's attached screenshot, a fragment of a text exchange, used coded language like inventory and delivery. But the detective's stomach dropped at one phrase. The merchandise will be ready Friday. The timestamp matched the family's recent weekend in Panama City Beach, memorialized in Instagram photos of the boys building sandcastles. Wilkins knew then that the idyllic home on Meadowview Drive was a stage set, and the curtain was about to fall. The anonymous email arrived in the Walton County Sheriff's tip line inbox at 3:17 a.m. on October 4, 2022, a timestamp that later struck investigators as deliberate. Pre-dawn submissions were rare, and this one bore no IP trail, routed through a VPN and an offshore server before vanishing into the digital ether. Detective Sarah Wilkins, the night shift officer who first opened it, nearly dismissed it as spam. The subject line read simply, "Check the attached. Hurry." The message itself was just 3 lines. "They're not who you think. The kids aren't safe. Look deeper." Attached was a single, grainy screenshot, a fragment of a text conversation between 2 contacts labeled DU and Zed. The exchange was cryptic but unmistakably sinister. What made Wilkins' blood run cold wasn't just the language, it was the context. The screenshot's metadata placed the conversation on September 30th, the same day the Zulocks had posted Instagram photos of their sons grinning on a Panama City Beach boardwalk, captioned, "Family Time." The disconnect between the cheerful facade and the shadowy exchange was jarring. Wilkins immediately escalated the tip to her supervisor, Lieutenant Dan Harris, a 20-year veteran who had worked human trafficking cases along the I-20 corridor. Harris recognized the lingo. Inventory, merchandise, buyers. Phrases often used in exploitation rings. By sunrise, a quiet investigation was underway. Forensic techs pulled the Zulocks' known devices: 2 iPhones, a MacBook, and an iPad registered to their home Wi-Fi. But the real break came when they subpoenaed their cloud backups. Hidden in Williams' iCloud was a secondary account, ETWZ Consulting 22, accessed only through a burner phone not listed in their home inventory. The account contained deleted texts matching the screenshot's phrasing, and worse, auto-synced photos that hadn't yet been purged. Most alarming was their adoption history. The boys, biological brothers, had been placed with the Zulocks through New Beginnings Family Services, an agency later shut down for falsifying home studies. The caseworker who approved them, Linda Fisher, had rubber-stamped 5 other adoptions under investigation. By October 10th, Wilkins had enough for a warrant, but Harris urged caution. "If they're networked, we need to identify the buyers," he warned. Then, at 11:03 p.m. on October 11th, the burner phone pinged again. Wilkins didn't wait. At 3 a.m., she signed the affidavit for a no-knock raid. SWAT was mobilized. The operation was set for dawn. At 5:47 a.m. on October 12th, 8 members of the Walton County SWAT team moved into position around the Zulock residence. The neighborhood was still asleep, the only sound the distant hum of a garbage truck. Body cameras flickered on as Lieutenant Harris gave the final nod. The team breached the front door with a hydraulic ram, shouting, "Police! Search warrant!" The home smelled of lavender and fresh laundry. A half-empty coffee cup sat on the kitchen counter beside 2 neatly packed lunchboxes. Certificate for one of the boys hung on the fridge. To the untrained eye, it was just another suburban morning. But the officers had been briefed on what to look for, and the anomalies surfaced fast. In the Zulocks' bedroom, 3 cell phones lay charging, 2 personal devices, and a third, a cheap prepaid burner. Detective Wilkins bagged it just as it buzzed with an incoming encrypted message. The nightstands held no books, no medications, just a small black notebook with pages of initials and dollar amounts. JB $5,000, RT $8,000. Then, in the walk-in closet, Officer Mark Reynolds noticed something off. The back wall was slightly recessed. A gentle push revealed a false panel. Behind it, a fireproof safe. When cracked open, it contained $28,450 in mixed bills, a USB drive labeled Kakant X. Haxmas 2021. A key fob for a storage unit, later traced to a facility near the interstate. The boys' bedroom looked like any other kid's space. Legos scattered on the carpet, superhero posters on the walls. But SWAT medic Carla Diaz froze when she checked the younger boy's bed. The safety rails weren't for preventing falls. They were leather restraints, expertly fitted to the frame, their buckles worn from use. Under the bed, a stuffed dinosaur's left eye was a tiny camera lens. Digital forensics specialist Mark Reynolds sat up at the kitchen table with William's MacBook. He expected encryption, but the device unlocked with a fingerprint scan when they roused William from bed. The desktop was cluttered with work files, vacation photos, and school documents. Then Reynolds spotted a folder named Tax Backup. Password protected. He ran a bypass tool. Inside, 47 subfolders. The first one he clicked, Client Meetings, held video files. The thumbnail preview showed a time-stamped clip labeled B-Day Party, June 12, 2022. Reynolds hit play. 5 seconds in, he ejected the drive. "We need a hazmat team for this," he told Wilkins, pale. "Not just cops, FBI, now!" By noon on raid day, the Zulock house was a federal crime scene. FBI cybercrimes analyst Daniel Cho arrived from Atlanta, gloved hands hovering over William's laptop. The Beidort Tax Backup folder wasn't just hidden. It was a meticulously organized archive of depravity. Cho mapped the structure. Q3 reports. Videos, each titled with city names. OrlandoConference.move, but showing hotel rooms with children. Client contacts. A spreadsheet linking emails to Bitcoin addresses with VIP tags next to certain names. Family archive. Hundreds of photos, seemingly normal until metadata revealed covert angles. A birthday cake shot? Camera was inside the refrigerator. Most disturbing was the routine special events subfolder. Videos of what appeared to be backyard barbecues or pool parties, but with chilling details. Adults lingering near the kids, hands just out of frame. The Zulocks strategically redirecting other parents' attention. One clip showed Zachary handing out sleepy lemonade before guests left. Cho traced uploads to a private server hosted in Estonia. Subscriber logs included IPs from 12 countries, some linked to prior Interpol trafficking cases. Payments flowed through a maze of shell companies, but one pattern emerged: deposits spiked after holidays. They were using Easter egg hunts and Christmas parties as cover, Cho noted. Back at the house, investigators dismantled the boy's Xbox. Inside, a micro SD card taped to the motherboard contained encrypted files. The decryption key? A sequence of controller buttons. Up, down, A, X. A code the older boy later admitted, "Daddy made me practice." The final horror came from Melissa Hargrove's testimony. The pediatric nurse, arrested 2 days later, confessed she'd prescribed the boys sedatives for travel anxiety. Pharmacy records showed double doses before every funny family trip. Child psychologist Dr. Evelyn Carter's evaluation of the Zulock boys filled 89 pages. The older child, then 9, spoke in whispers, his sentences trailing off. The younger, 7, hid under tables during sessions. The older brother drew stick figures with scribbled-out faces, called nightmares. The movie nights, When asked about his daddies, he covered his ears and hummed. The younger brother wouldn't eat unless food was sealed in front of him, tore his own hair out in clumps, told Dr. Carter, "I don't want to be merchandise anymore." Their biological grandmother, tracked down in Kentucky, wept holding their baby photos. "I thought adoption would save them," she said. "Not this." The Zulock case exploded from a local investigation into a multi-state operation as forensic accountants and cybercrime experts began untangling the web of connections radiating from that quiet Walton County home. What initially appeared to be an isolated case of child abuse soon revealed itself as a sophisticated trafficking operation with tentacles stretching across state lines and international borders. The ledger found in the Zulock's safe became the Rosetta Stone for investigators. Each cryptic entry represented a node in their network. Code names and payments. Entries like JB0822 to $8,000 and RT0922 to $12,000 correlated with deposits in offshore accounts. Location tags. Abbreviations matching hotels near major airports, ATL, MCO, DFW. Dates aligned with conventions, sports tournaments, and church retreats. FBI agent Daniel Cho discovered the operation functioned like a twisted franchise system. The Zulocks served as home base, grooming and preparing victims, while their network handled distribution and sales. Their most frequent contacts included Melissa Hargrove, the pediatric nurse who provided sedatives and falsified medical records; Pastor Ryan Tisdale, a youth minister who arranged overnight retreats; Gregory Baum, a private adoption attorney who sourced children; Uncle Dave, an IT specialist who managed their dark web presence. The money trail revealed shocking sophistication. Payments flowed through. Bitcoin wallets converted to Monero. Shell companies registered in Delaware. A fake children's charity that actually received tax exemptions. Most chilling was the inventory management system. Each child in their network had a barcode tattoo, temporary, a digital profile with measurements and special skills, a schedule of appearances at seemingly legitimate events. When investigators raided Hargrove's clinic, they found a hidden partition on her work computer containing encrypted medical files for 17 children, none of them her actual patients. Pastor Tisdale's church basement concealed a soundproofed prayer room with recording equipment. The scale of the operation became clear when Homeland Security discovered outgoing shipments disguised as humanitarian aid packages. The simultaneous raids on November 1, 2022, codenamed Operation Broken Home, netted 14 arrests across 3 states. Body cam footage from the Zulock's arrest shows William calmly requesting his lawyer, while Zachary alternated between rage and catatonia. William's interrogation maintained eerie composure, referred to the children as our special projects, asked detectives who's going to pay their tuition now, made veiled references to powerful friends in Zachary's interrogation. He screamed about being the real victim, claimed they saved the boys from worse, demanded to know who betrayed them, collapsed when shown video evidence. The other suspects proved equally disturbing. Melissa Hargrove initially played the confused professional until shown photos of herself administering unneeded injections. Her clinic's security footage revealed after-hours appointments with children brought in through the back door. Pastor Tisdale quoted scripture throughout his arrest, calling the investigation Satan's work. His church computer contained hundreds of emails arranging mission trips for children that never appeared on official rosters. The most shocking moment came when investigators confronted Uncle Dave, David Bergman, their tech specialist. His home contained a server farm and notebooks filled with access codes to dark web marketplaces. Before being Mirandized, he blurted out, "I just handled the streaming. I never touched anyone." As the suspects were processed, a pattern emerged in their backgrounds. All had worked in trusted positions with children. Several had prior complaints dismissed due to lack of evidence. Most showed signs of being groomed into the network themselves. The interrogations revealed the operation's hierarchy. While the Zulocks were the visible center, there were clearly others above them. References to the board and annual evaluations suggested an even larger organization. The state of Georgia versus Zulock et al. Became one of the most complex prosecutions in state history. Jury selection took 3 weeks as attorneys screened for candidates who could handle the disturbing evidence. The prosecution strategy focused on digital evidence and paper trails, used forensic accountants to explain the money flow. Had pediatric experts described the victim's injuries, played only 2 minutes of video evidence, enough to shock but not traumatize. The defense claimed the Zulocks were framed, argued the children's testimony was coached, suggested the dark web activity was hackers, portrayed the couple as victims of a witch hunt. The trial's turning point came when the older victim, now 10, testified via closed-circuit TV. His description of the blue light nights, when the hidden cameras activated, left jurors visibly shaken. When shown a photo of his bedroom, he began counting silently. A coping mechanism his therapist later explained was how he endured abuse. The defense's collapse came when their star expert witness, Dr. Alan Petrovsky, admitted under cross-examination that he'd been paid $800 per hour by a family defense fund linked to known pedophile activists. The final blow was forensic proof that the Zulocks' burner phone had been used to film abuse materials at locations matching their travel records. After just 6 hours of deliberation, the jury returned guilty verdicts on all counts. As the judge read the terms, life without parole plus 100 years, Zachary vomited in the defendant's box, while William stared blankly, whispering what appeared to be calculations. The June 15, 2023 sentencing hearing revealed new horrors even after conviction. Impact statements included the boy's grandmother holding photos of their mother's overdose deathbed, a therapist describing one child's new fear of all men, including doctors, a school nurse detailing how the younger boy hoarded food for when the bad men come. Judge Bennett's remarks cut deepest. You didn't just steal their childhood, you engineered its destruction. His sentence ensured the Zulocks would die in prison. The case's ripple effects were immediate. Zulock laws tightened adoption screenings. Mandatory reporting rules expanded. New monitoring for high-risk foster placements. Oak Grove Baptist Church disbanded. The elementary school installed counseling trailers. Walton County created a victim rehabilitation fund. The biological brothers were placed with a trauma-informed foster family in another state. Their therapist reported small victories. The younger boy finally sleeping through the night. The older one drawing pictures without blacked-out eyes. But unanswered questions lingered. Who was the mysterious J.B. who received $92,000? Where was the Red Door place the children mentioned? Why did Williams' offshore accounts show payments from a Luxembourg bank? The house on Meadowview Drive was demolished in 2024. The lot remains empty, a local ordinance prohibiting any future development on the cursed ground. Despite the convictions, the Zulock case remains disturbingly incomplete. Investigators estimate they uncovered only 60% of the network's operations. The lingering mysteries include the anonymous tipster. Linguistic analysis suggests a woman aged 35 to 50, possibly someone inside the operation. Never came forward, despite the $50,000 reward. The encrypted files. 17 videos remain unopenable. Military-grade encryption suggests outside help. One file title translates to "The Collection." The boys described a red door house. Flight records show unexplained trips to Oklahoma. A storage unit in Alabama was emptied pre-raid. $2.3 million moved through Cayman Islands accounts. A deleted email mentioning European partners. Most perplexing is the merchandise ledger found in William's safe. Coded entries suggest at least 12 other children were involved, but only 4 have been identified. Forensic pediatricians found evidence the Zulock's sons had been given memory-altering drugs during key events. The current whereabouts of the victims offer cautious hope. Their therapist's final note reads, "They asked for a birthday cake with no cameras. We ate the whole thing in one sitting." A small victory in an endless war against the monsters who prey on innocence. As the lead prosecutor told reporters, "We got justice, but we'll never get answers. Some doors should remain closed." The empty lot where the house once stood serves as a silent memorial, and a warning that evil often wears the kindest face. Their therapist's final prognosis: these kids will never be normal, but they're learning safety exists. What do you think? Were the Zulock's punishments enough? And how can we better protect children from monsters like them? Let us know in the comments. And if this story shocked you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more true crime cases that will leave you speechless.